But I know I'm going to forget midway when I start and everything else. Okay, so basically what I'm doing a program on is on backgrounds. I do a lot of judging, and one of the main problems that I find with perfectly good pictures is that the backgrounds are very busy or distracting. So I thought I would go into a little bit about what is distracting and a little bit about how you can avoid having these very busy and distracting backgrounds, and then, if all else fails, how to fix some of it simply in Photoshop. So, if you're shooting a picture, you can have the best composition, you can have super sharp pictures, but if your background is very busy or if it clutters up your picture, you're going to lose your subject. Okay, so there's different ways of correcting a background, and the best way of correcting it is in camera before you actually take the shot. So the first thing to do is to pay attention to what you're doing, to pay attention to what's around you. If you're taking a picture in a studio, this is too distracting.
Oh, no, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful for us that can't hear.
Yes.
Okay.
You have a small voice.
I know. If you're taking a picture in a studio, you're in a controlled setting. You can control your background. You can put a screen up there. You can put a backdrop up there and have whatever kind of scenery you want. Okay. But if you're taking a picture in a house or outside or in a crowded situation, it's not as easy to control your background. So you have to sort of, pay attention to what you're looking at. So, is there a pole behind somebody's head? So, we all laugh because it's sort of a cliche, but I've seen it time and again where somebody didn't notice when they're taking the picture and it looks like somebody has a pole or a light bulb growing out of their heads, Try to remember to check for stuff like that. If you're in the house, you have a lot of messy stuff lying around that ends up in your picture. If you're shooting in a crowd, that becomes a problem too. Are you shooting against a backdrop where people are wearing a lot of bright colors? I took a picture, we were at the Lipizzaner Stallions, and the way I was sitting, I had myself all set up and a bunch of red hatters sat across from me. And so I had people in these bright purple outfits, and now I'm trying to get the background out, and that was really fun. It's hours of work when you do something like that, and you can do it. I know I've done it, I'm sure Nancy's done it, but it is very tedious, and it's hard, and it takes hours and hours of work to get rid of those backgrounds. When you're shooting nature shots, pay attention to that too. Do you have a lot of branches or a lot of leaves and stuff? Sometimes they help the picture, sometimes they really distract, especially if you're trying to get a bird or an animal and the leaves and the grass is in front of their faces. It's a very distracting thing, and you sort of lose your animal. You can have a beautiful shot of the animal, but you're going to lose it in those leaves and twigs and stuff. If you're shooting on a beach and doing a portrait, is the horizon coming through the middle of the head? It's behind the head, but is it on the middle? That's a very bad angle to take a shot from. So, yeah, right across here. What you need to do is, if you can, now if you're taking a shot with a moving animal, you may not have that option unless you're able to set up in advance and sort of know that there's going to be something moving around. Yeah, tell the packers. But sometimes just moving a little bit left or right, if it's possible, can clear up the background because you're taking it from a different angle. So maybe there's a lot of trees here, but maybe there's sky over there. So sort of try to be cognizant of it. Sometimes, owls or eagles in a tree. If you're over here, you got a branch going across where you can't really get at that eagle, but maybe if you go around the other side of the tree, I know it's very hard because you can't, but there are times you can in nature, and it's just an example, but if you can move over at least to the side, maybe that branch isn't as prominent or as much in the way.
And you can ask the bird to
You can always try that.
They don't take direction very well.
No. You can also change the angle of your shot from up to down. So let's say you're shooting something, a person, and it's in a crowded situation, but maybe there's some open sky. If you shoot from the ground up, you'll at least get their head up in the sky, and maybe you can get a good head shot where maybe you can get a whole body shot. And the same thing vice versa, maybe if you can get up high and shoot down, you may be able to get a ground or something where you're changing your angle so that you can wipe out a lot of that busyness in the background. Also, if you're doing like a headshot or something, when you crop in, if you crop in really close sometimes, all that stuff will sort of fade away. The last one is you can adjust your f-stop. Now, that to blur the background. So that is sort of a hit and miss type of thing, because if you're shooting a subject and you have a long lens and you choose a large f-stop, which a large f-stop is f2, right? f3, f4. If the background's not close to the person, you probably could get a nice blurry background, or a bird or whatever you're shooting. If the background's right on top of it, right behind your object, it's not going to blur enough to make a difference. And sometimes it's very distracting, because now you have this sort of background that you can half see, half can't see, half blurred. It'll separate it out a little bit, but sometimes that becomes more of a distraction than it would be if it wasn't blurred. So, you know, you sort of have to really know your lenses and know what the results will be. But if the background's far away, you can get a really nice shot with, and it's a stationary bird, you can get a nice shot. If you have a moving bird, personally, I don't try to use a low f-stop. I try to use something around f8 or f9, because to me it's more important to get a good depth of field on the bird so that I can capture the whole bird, because when they're moving, it's pretty hard to capture the face. So the chances are you're going to capture a piece of that body. If it's at f8 or f9, the whole bird will come out clear, including their eyes. But if you're at 5 or 6 or 2 or 3, if you catch a leg, the eyes aren't going to be shot clear. So it's a judgment as to what you're doing. If it's a stationary bird, you can do that. You have the luxury of doing that. If you're doing a moving bird, my personal suggestion is to leave your f-stop a little bit higher. The other thing too is, most times if it's moving, not always, but with any luck, it's against the sky. So you don't care if that's blurred or not, because that's sort of a non-busy background and a pretty background to have. So you don't really care if it's blurred or not. You sort of want to see that background, or against water. So that's all things to consider. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask me? So what I did was, I have a few examples of some pictures that I took that will show some of the stuff that, some of the mistakes and some of the stuff that I did. So, okay, so this is 2 pictures of an Indian that I did, okay, in Gallup, New Mexico. And you can see on this one, you can see the crowd. And this picture, actually, I worked very hard on, because I sort of wanted to include the crowd when I originally took this picture, because I thought it would be a nice, almost like a street photography scene. So, like this guy here with the blue shirt, I think he had a red shirt on. I sort of desaturated the crowd, trying to move him back a little bit, and I sort of blurred the background a little bit, and it still looked like a messy picture to me. Okay, so I finally went ahead and I came out with this, where I added a texture. I took out the background, added a texture to basically a black background, which gives you that look, and I left I left the bottom here where the feet are in, so that you can see that. So that's one example, but there was just no way of fixing it, and that's going to happen sometimes. I have another one. This one here. Now this, if I blew it up, it's a great picture. She is tack sharp. She got this intense look on her face. Her foot is up. There's just no way I can get this crowd out of there. I can if I wanted to spend hours of work, and I just didn't want to be bothered with it. But if you see all these feathers and all this stuff coming here, the feet underneath, it's just ridiculous. Now, could I have done something different? Probably not, because there's people all around. There was a powwow, so everybody was sitting in a circle. And it comes to how much time do I want to invest to take the background out. But another example, she's sort of lost. Even if I cropped in close, she still would be lost against the crowd. Yeah. And then let me see. Oh, and this is another example here. I'm going to open this guy up here. Get the end here. So with this guy, this is where I was saying sometimes if you shoot up from the ground, now you notice, see where his head is? Now I probably could have been a little bit over more this way shooting, and I would have got this guy in without any of those branches, but it's easy to take out a couple of branches. If I just went in here and just cropped to where crop them in really close, okay? And just do a headshot. There you go. You see the difference? So now I was able to salvage at least part of the picture. Now I would, if I was working this picture, I'd get rid of some of the branches here and maybe some of the tree in here. It would take me a little bit of time, but nothing big, not a big deal. So this is some of the things that you consider when you're taking a picture in a crowded situation. Okay.